Hello and welcome to Shoot the Shit with Squeegee. I'm your host, the Squeegee of Justice. You may know me as a partner and mod at Trial TV Live, but tonight I'm coming to you with a side broadcast, a place where you get to know me a bit better and I get to know you. So join me and let's go shoot some shit. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We have got a great show for you guys lined up tonight. We have the three co-founders for AdvocacyCon, which is conference. We have Eric, we have Melissa, and we have Whitney joining us tonight. Now, Whitney is the daughter of one of our truly fantastic chatters, Pammy. And I know I'm looking forward to hearing all about AdvocacyCon, what it is, why it is important. It is going on in Indianapolis, Indiana at the end of this month. And I will give you just a very brief overview right now, but I will let the those that created it go into much more greater detail. So while chat gets sorted out, reading from the website, AdvocacyCon is a crime conference unlike any other. We bring together experts, nonprofit organizations, families of the missing and murdered, and individuals passionate about advocating for justice. It aims to create a platform for education, connection, and collaboration in the fight for justice. So this came to me from Pammy, right? I kind of heard that Whitney was going to be on Defense Diaries, and I wanted to watch that show. And I think we were actually doing another Shoot the Shit, so I was unable to watch that. I did watch a little bit of it as a replay crew. But then when Pammy came to us, I think like a week or so ago, and said, would we here, Trial TV Live, want to have the three co-founders on? I was honored. I was humbled. I said, absolutely, yes. This is something that is near and dear to my heart. I think to all of our hearts. That's kind of why we're here. That's why we started this channel in the first place. So I'm just so, again, honored and excited to have this conversation tonight. So with that being said, let's do a quick chat check-in. I don't want to keep our guests waiting too long. Only fan, good to see you. Irish Amy, Sinbad 33, Pammy, you're third. Okay, second. Nice. Susie, thank you. Nan R, thanks for stopping in. Great to see you. Fala, therapist, thank you so much. Baka, thank you guys. Thank you so much. Drunky the Bear, glad you guys made it. I think you guys are in for a treat tonight. Krista Limited Edition, thank you for joining us. Equinox, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you guys have questions, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. Aaron's going to be gathering them and starring them. So we will get to your questions like maybe every 15, 20 minutes or so. So if we don't get to your question, just pop it in again and we'll try to get to them at some point. All right, so enough of my blathering on. Let's bring out our guests. We'll bring out Eric, Melissa, and Whitney. Hello, guys. How are you?
Hello. Hello.
Hello, hello. Eric, you are muted.
That's par for the course for me, honestly.
Thank you guys for joining us. I really, truly do appreciate you guys coming here. And I'm not just blowing smoke. I am honored. This is when Whitney, when your mom came to us, and I knew that you guys had been on Defense Diaries. I absolutely love Bob and Allie. Then I went to your website and I read through kind of what you guys have been doing, are about to do. I can't say enough, about thanking you for choosing us to come on and tell us a little bit about what you guys are all about. So that being said, what is AdvocacyCon? When is it? Why should we care about it?
Yeah.
Talk to us. Yeah.
Happy to take that one. So Advocacy Conference, and thank you for specifying that it is conference and not convention, because we do definitely amongst us make a distinction between the two. So Advocacy Conference was an idea that I had, like many of my crazy ideas. I can't help but just make it happen once I have something like this. And so if you don't know me, my baby brother was murdered almost 38 years ago, and I've been fighting for justice for him with my mom for the last almost 4 decades.
Mm.
And a lot of what I've done in the advocacy space has been because of Jacob's case or in honor of Jacob. And so as I've continued to fight for justice, and things have not been easy, things have been very difficult. They still continue to be difficult. I just constantly ask myself, like, what could I do to take this bad thing that happened to me and turn it into some positive energy, so that instead of consuming me and like overwhelming me, like we can actually start improving things. So the idea of it is basically bringing together families of the missing and murdered, bringing together professional advocates, resources, nonprofit organizations, people that can help families of the missing and murdered, give them ideas, give them feedback, give them thoughts, give them things that they may not have thought of, then avenues that they may not have considered. And the idea really was to bring a community together so that everybody feels, first of all, like they're not isolated,
Mhm.
but second of all, like they have access to the things that they need to help them move their cases forward. And it's the first of its kind. There's nothing out there like this, a multi-day specifically focused on the families of the missing and murdered. We also welcome people who want to be involved, people who care about these cases but want to help. They don't want to be passive. They want to be active. You can come and learn how to advocate, how to help support families of the missing and murdered.
Fantastic. Whitney, Melissa, anything to add to that? I'm sure you do. So
Yeah, Eric just came to us about a year and a half ago and was like, "Hey, I have this idea. What do you guys think? Do you want to come on board?" And we did not hesitate at all. We're like, "Yes." We already have multiple jobs each. Children, we're mothers, we've got a lot going on. We all live in different states, but we were like, yeah, we're going to help you make this happen. We're very much doers, and volunteer work is our passion of really any kind. And so when Eric said this a year and a half ago, it wasn't quite as scary as it is at this moment. But I'm so proud of the work that we have done in the last year to make this happen. So thankful he came to us.
Whitney, before we get to you, I'm sorry, real quick, Melissa, what is it that scares you about this? Like what?
I mean, it's just it's a big conference. There's lots of people. I'm an introvert, so I don't love the whole talking to people aspect, even though, but there's a lot going into it, and I just would never want to disappoint any family or they thought that it wasn't great. But that's why we did a long leeway into it. I mean, we've been planning for a year and a half for this very first one, because we wanted to make sure that we had every single detail ironed out perfectly. And we know there's still going to be issues, but we're very, very excited for what we've planned.
Yeah, Whitney, how do you feel about that?
I'm the extrovert, so I'm most excited about seeing all of the people. Even Eric is on the introverted side. I'm all the people all the time. Get me in a room full of people, and it's my thing to do. So I love that. And I'm sure all of you that know my mother, it's where I get it from. She's very extroverted as well, I'm sure, in the chats, because I've seen her in the chats in multiple YouTube live streams. So that's where I get it from. I'm excited to give you a little bit of background of how Melissa and I got into this world, as well as how we met Eric. We started a true crime podcast in COVID times back in 2020, when we were supposed to be quarantining, but we kind of bent the rules a little bit, and we still had our friendly dinners because Melissa is my best friend. Our husbands grew up together. And so during COVID, we still had our family weekly dinners, and we would talk about what we watched, what we listened to, what we read that week. And I convinced Melissa to start recording our conversations one day, which was a feat in of itself. The fact that I accomplished that is pretty big. Because she was not for it at first. But we started recording our conversations, and then it turned into, how do we make this more? we are both volunteer-based people, like Melissa said, and that all was taken away in COVID. We couldn't help at our kids' schools anymore. We couldn't help in the communities. We were both members of Junior League and other things, other community aspects. And so we started reaching out to families and asking how we could help. And we would go to the locations where people had disappeared or have been murdered and see the actual locations, get hands-on, start flyer campaigns, honkin' waves. We've done foot searches. For those that know Brandon Lawson, Melissa and I were on the 9-person volunteer search team that found evidence that led to the discovery of his remains after he was missing for 9 years. And that's really what solidified our role in this industry. And our podcast led us to meeting Eric at a convention, a festival. And we just really hit it off. We knew we would want to help him with anything. So when he literally sent us a text message, he's like, hey, what do you think of this? We didn't ask questions, which we probably should have. Looking back at it, we did not hesitate 1 second. We didn't think about like, what does a conference entail? How long is this going to take? What is it? What is this? What even is it to organize a conference? Because it's not something I've ever done in my life. And we just said, yeah, let's do it. And like Melissa said, we took 18 months to really take the time to make sure we've thought through as many different aspects as we possibly can. And we're excited. It happens at the end of this month, which is rapidly approaching, March 28th through 30th in Indy, like you said.
Yeah. Now, why Indianapolis? What was the choice for that? Any special reason, or was it, well, go ahead. Why Indianapolis?
Yeah. So there was a number of reasons, but probably the biggest reason was we sent a bunch of requests for proposals to various cities. Indy came back with the best price. So that was probably the primary reason. But we also felt like because it was the best price, they could pull from, Cincinnati, from Kentucky, from Illinois, Northern Ohio, just from all different parts of the Midwest. So we felt like that was a good central location to just kind of pull some more people in.
Right. Yeah, I think like Nashville, that's a pretty common place for conferences and conventions. Indianapolis absolutely is being from Ohio. I know the Big Ten holds their conference championships there. So that pulls from all, Michigan, Minnesota, the whole, like you said, the Midwest, so I would agree with that for sure. To put on a conference, it's not just throwing a big party. You have to get funding. You have to deal with law enforcement. Then you have to deal with speakers. So how did you guys get the speakers that you have? And let's talk a little bit about the speakers.
Yeah. So luckily, the three of us have been in this space for quite a few years now. And we have been to conferences and conventions and festivals. And so we've been lucky enough to meet some amazing people. We didn't want this to be a content creator type conference. We wanted it to be focused on the family, but we do have some resources that we knew of. So we started there. Whitney and I only work with families on our podcast. Every single episode, we work with the families and of unsolved cases. So that's kind of where we started. We invited them to come. But as far as the speakers, we knew Julie Murray. We know a bunch of nonprofits like Light the Way and Haley Gray Research. So we'd already kind of knew some of these people in the space that knew a lot about how to go about telling your story of your loved one. How about getting it out there in the media? How to make a missing persons flyer. We also are friends with someone that is an expert in putting out FOIA requests. So we kind of just like tapped them on the shoulder and was like, hey, we're doing this thing. We would love it if you can come show our families how you work and what you do to help them with their case. Then it kind of just started falling into place. Everyone was super supportive. They were gung-ho on the idea of what we were doing, and they were super excited about it. So that's kind of how it came to be. And then over the last year, it's just our schedule has been fully booked for 6 months now. For the schedule as far as the speakers. So it's been great as far as the speakers go. We're going to have some amazing people there.
Fantastic. Go ahead, Whitney. I was going to ask you a question, but you look like you have a burning desire. Go.
Sorry. What Melissa didn't say is that we really took into consideration our keynote speaker. We wanted to really think about who that could possibly be to provide as big of an impact for these families as possible. And we tossed around a few different names, and one that continuously came up in our conversations was Beth Holloway, who, for those who don't know, her daughter Natalie disappeared in Aruba in 2005, and she has been fighting for justice for Natalie for 20 years, and just recently did an actual conviction for Natalie's murder go through. And her name consistently came up. So that's someone we wanted there to speak for us. And we were very, very lucky and honored that she's coming to be our keynote speaker this year. So I did want to mention that.
Fantastic. I want to pull up your website. Let me see if this will, okay. So here's the website. Let me see, or maybe Aaron might have to navigate through this a little bit. There we go. Okay. So Aaron is going to navigate. So chat, just so you guys can sort of get a feel for this. Aaron, do you want to go to the keynote speakers? If you don't mind, let's just kind of show our chat what you guys are talking about. So there's Beth. And you guys have a long list of speakers too. How many is like maybe 15 or 20? Or
I'd have to count. I mean, let's see. We have 3 different stages going at a time. So probably 20-ish speakers.
Okay.
Quite a few.
I've counted 9 so far, plus Beth. So yeah, I mean, quite a lot. And you guys, chat, you'll recognize a lot of these names. Very big in the industry, in the space, I should say. Yeah. And you guys were just on Defense Diaries. There's Bob in all of his glory. Fantastic. Now, as far as events, I saw you guys have events scheduled. Is that correct? Let's see. Or is that, let's see. Yeah. So okay. So what kind of, go ahead. What kind of events do you guys have going on? Yep.
Well, we've got all these sessions that are geared towards helping people who want to advocate, right? But then we've also got outside the conference, we've got a fundraiser happening on Sunday evening at Ash and Elm, and it's going to be a fundraiser for Impact Advocacy Foundation as well as Season of Justice, and it's called Play It Forward. It's going to be a game night. It's going to be so much fun. We're just going to hang out, play some games, try decompress a little bit after kind of a heavy weekend. But yeah, the rest of this is just all like, I think, super in-depth, amazing content. We're so proud of what we've put together here. And I hope that the families and everybody who's interested in this gets what they need to get out of it.
Now, are you guys going to be like, who's managing, like, say, the training or empowering families? Is that you guys specifically, or do you have, for lack of a better word, not to demean you, do you have professionals coming in to do that? Like therapists and like how's that work?
So as far as the training, we do have professionals. I'm not exactly sure we're allowed to say their name, which is weird. They are advocate specialists coming in to do the training session. So if you are in the industry as an advocate or work for the law enforcement, those are classes that you can take to possibly get CEU credits at the end of it. Yes, we also have yoga one day. Whitney, correct me if I'm wrong. It is, what is the title of it?
It's trauma-informed yoga. So our yoga teacher, I don't do yoga. I do yoga from a YouTube video. I don't know what the teachers are called, the yogi or the specialist or the person leading the session is trauma-informed. She's been trained on that, as well as a survivor herself. She had a child murdered, and so she took to yoga to kind of help her through her grief process. And she will be giving us a yoga session on Sunday morning. On Saturday morning, we have a meditation session. We also have comfort dogs that will be on site. When I say we've thought through every possible aspect of this conference, we want to make sure that every possible aspect is covered. We do not want people re-traumatized because they're coming into this sharing the worst possible days of their lives. And we want to make sure they have the people, the resources to step away, to take what they need. And we take a lot of that from Eric. Melissa and I are not family members of missing or murdered individuals. We are just advocates. And we lean heavily on Eric. So I'm sure Eric would want to speak more about that.
Yeah, I think you know, the difference between what we're doing and some of the other kind of things that go on with true crime is it's really not about sensationalizing the crime. It's about the story of the person who's missing, and it's about
Right.
supporting the people who were left behind, because this is the loneliest thing I've ever done. Even though I've done it with my mom, it still feels like we're alone. It's us against a giant, government, essentially, because they're not willing to do what it takes. So I've had to, really wrap my mind around that, and that feeling of loneliness and that feeling of not really having support. I don't want anybody in this situation to ever feel that. And so, like, our theme this year is ignite the spark of hope. Ignite the spark of hope for victims' families is our tagline.
Yeah.
This year, we're igniting that spark. We're lighting that in the hearts and in the minds of the families of the missing and murdered to help them be able to fuel their advocacy with that hope. And we're going to continue to foster that as we build this community and we move it around the country.
So that's a great segue. Is this going to be traveling on a yearly basis, or so you plan on doing it every year? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Every
Yes.
year.
Resounding yes. Yeah.
Every year at the conference. So if you attend the conference, you'll know the location of the next year first. But yes, it'll be in a different location every single year.
Gotcha. And how has the response been with pre-sale tickets? 50% of what you're expecting, 100%? Like where does that kind of fall?
Yeah, we're about 50% of where we were expecting right now, but I'm expecting that we're going to have some day of sales and we have some sales kind of leading up to the conference as well that have been coming in. It's hard. You don't know what you're going to expect when you just come out of the blue and decide to create something that's never existed before. So, our expectations weren't really based in anything other than a guess.
Sure. Yeah. What do you base it on? You base it on past conferences like CrimeCon, or what do you actually base it on? And that's a legitimate question. As I'm thinking it, I'm like, what did you base this on?
We didn't base it on CrimeCon. We literally just talked about it and was like, what do you think we can expect? We've all been to quite a few conferences, various for our individual industries, because working day jobs as well as doing this. So I think we kind of took that and was like, what can we expect? But then as we started partnering, because we are partnering with the local Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department, things kind of started spiraling, and we went to NOVA, which I forget what the initials stand for.
The National Organizations of Victim Advocates.
Okay.
That was a yearly conference that is amazing, and we made so many connections there. So we kind of got like swept away with, because there's thousands of people that attend that conference. And one day we would hope to be along those lines, but
Of course.
yeah, just kind of threw a shot. And after this year, we knew this year was going into, we're not going to know much, but we're going to gain so much information and so much experience from this first year. We've already had so much support that I really feel like it's beyond what I even thought it was going to be.
That's fantastic. One of our mods had a really good question about, will this be live streamed at all for those that cannot attend? Because we would love to, help out in any way we can, because obviously we're not going to attend, but will there be any kind of live streaming or anything that we can either watch and or restream to help you guys?
We absolutely would have loved that option. Again, this is our first year, so we're still doing the figure it out game. We will be recording most sessions is the plan now, and we will be releasing them later for a virtual option. We do have the ability to do that. Fingers crossed there's no technical issues, but that's the goal for this year. Next year, we are hoping to have a live virtual option so that it will be like you are actually there in person with us. That is the goal. It's very much we didn't want to bite off more than we could chew this first year, so we kind of had to pick and choose what to focus on immediately.
Of course. Yeah. No, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Aaron and I have, because we have a marketing company, so we put on some events, not even remotely close to what you guys are doing. So I can appreciate everything that goes into it and everything that you think about, there's going to be 10 things that you don't think about. And they will come up, and you guys will roll with the punches, and it'll be fine. I have no doubt that this will be exactly what you are hoping for, expect, and then that much more. There will be bumps, of course, but that's to be expected. Do you have the? I'm sure you do, but I want to ask this anyway. Do you have like the backing of other advocacy groups and foundations and organizations? Because I'm coming at it as a content creator who is fascinated by the depravity of the human mind, right? You guys are coming at it from a completely different area. So I want to hope that you do have the backing, but do you have the backing of other groups such as, of what you guys are in?
Yeah, we I don't want to speak for those groups, but I think that them coming and attending AdvocacyCon is a sign that they're definitely with us. So we've got the Gabby Petito Foundation coming. We've got Light the Way. We've got Season of Justice, DNA Doe Project. I mean, there are so many organizations. I'm missing like dozens. PI for the Missing, my own organization, Angels Voices, Silence No More, that helps families in New Mexico. It's just help me jump in, Melissa Whitney. I'm sure I'm missing a ton.
The only one I could think of is Crime Stoppers of Flint will be there as well, the director of that organization.
Fantastic.
Like I said, the Metropolitan Police Department, as well as the prosecuting office, will also have advocates there as well.
Fantastic. All right. Sinbad 33 has a question. Do you ever work with POMC?
So POMC is Parents of Murdered Children. I'm presuming that's who they're referring to. We have reached out to them. If you know someone, send them our way. We've not heard back from them. We would love to work with them. But we have made connections. Excuse me, suddenly I can't talk anymore. We have made connections with a few advocates that work in their space. We just have not made it to the head executives or whoever makes the decisions about coming for Parents of Murdered Children, but we would love to have them still, even though we're only 2 weeks away. If they can make it, come on. We'll figure it out.
Fantastic. Just kind of going through the chat, seeing if there are any questions. This would be a good time for you guys to drop some questions for our guests before I move on to other things. Karen asks, how can us viewers get involved?
Eric, you're muted. Eric's our boomer. We call him our boomer.
Eric,
everything's fine.
You'll be fine. It's all good, man.
Yes. So if you are interested in helping get involved in AdvocacyCon, we're looking for people that want to make a difference. You're welcome to come. If you want to help sponsor a family who maybe needs some travel expenses covered or needs their ticket covered, we don't want costs to be a barrier for families. So we created the Impact Advocacy Foundation. You can donate to that. Every penny, every cent goes directly to the families to ensure that they can attend AdvocacyCon. So you can rest easy knowing that. And it's also tax exempt donation. So that always helps to lower your tax burden. And then I think just sharing, share our post, talk to people that that maybe are families of the missing and murdered or people that are interested in justice, and let them know that we exist, because that's who we want to be at our conference.
Eric, we have a question for you, and you can answer it or not. If it gets too personal, would you share your mother's story? Is that something
Yeah, I have shared it on my own podcast, True Consequences. I've been on several YouTube channels, and it is a very, very intense story that involves child abuse and is hard for some people to hear. So I don't want to just kind of blurt it out right now in the middle of this, because I think it will kind of derail everything that we're talking about here. But you can certainly look it up. And I'm happy to talk about it, on any other show or anything like that, because I'm still trying to actively get justice and get coverage for Jacob.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. Whitney and Melissa, you guys, let's get back to you guys for a moment. You were friends, you are friends, and you guys during COVID, you were saying that you just started talking, and then you created this podcast. Before that, what drew you to true crime and or advocacy?
Well, I think it started just as a regular true crime consumer. I listened to all the podcasts while I was, doing my day job. I would always have True Crime Garage, Gen Y, something in my ear. It's the mystery of it all. It's, how does someone disappear and never seen again? Definitely, it's interesting to say the least. And so when I met Whitney, which is insane that I only met her like 5 or 6 years ago, and we have been joined at the hip since the moment I've met her. It's crazy. We both had this interest. I believe it was a true crime book at her house when she invited us over for dinner, and we have not stopped talking about true crime since then. I definitely don't listen to as many podcasts now, but all of the advocacy work definitely takes precedence. But yeah, we started just talking about true crime all the time. And then once we started working with families, we realized like, hey, we want to take this in a different direction. We want to help the families. We want to do more boots on the ground type of work. And that's when we started doing, we also, if I'm not going to lie about this, but we also wanted to get a girls trip out of this. So we started going to locations.
Nice.
Well, to be fair, hold on. We got to take a step back here. To be fair, we are both the only girls in our household. We each have 2 children, both boys. So that's 4 boys between the 2 of us. We both have husbands. So we're like, there's too much testosterone going on. We got to get out of here. I have girl dogs. She has girl dogs just specifically for that reason. So we tried to figure out a way to get girls trips out of it. So that's kind of how let's get more hands-on. That's how we kind of justified it to our husbands, I guess. Yes. We're going to go help this family. And they were like, okay, good job. Have fun. Great job being good people. And we're like, yeah, girls weekend.
Right. I've had this conversation a lot because Erin, my wife, loves true crime for a lot of different reasons. And I've always been, it's always been there for me, but I haven't been into it as much as I am, right now. So my question to all of you is, why do you think females, for lack of a better word, are more attracted to it? Is that might be the wrong, but like, what is the pull? I know what it is for me, because it's the depravity of the human mind. That just fascinates me to no end. Like, well, how can somebody do that to this person? So what is it from a female male standpoint? And do you agree with that, or am I off base with that?
I'll go first if you want me to, because I have some ideas.
Please. Yeah,
I mean, they could just be true for me. So first of all, being a female, I'm always looking to be safe. And I feel like based on other people's experiences, I obviously know, like, I can't walk in the dark somewhere on a, desolate place because it's not safe for me. So I kind of use that as education. Like, what are these people doing that I should not be doing? And it's also, I feel like a lot of women are fixers and they want to solve problems. That's like how it's ingrained into us. And so when we hear about something horrific happening, we're like, why is this happening? And how can we fix it so it does not happen again? That's kind of my perspective of it. Those 2 things, I'm like, this is what true crime brings to me. Now it's completely different because I really have dealt with so many families that I just want to help them. Even if I can't make anything really happen, just listening to them and letting them have that outlet is really what I want. So that's why I don't listen to as much true crime anymore, because I hear it firsthand so often.
Whitney, where do you stand?
Same for the most part. My fascination with true crime started at way too young of an age. My mom let me watch Seven way too early as a child, way too early in my life. And I blame her for that all the time. For those who haven't seen Seven, you would understand if you saw it.
Yeah.
And from there, I wanted to learn more of like, what is going on within the human mind that it makes people do these things. So the psychology is always incredibly fascinating to me, as well as, the self-preservation of just being a woman, all those things. I want to know why. And which is interesting because now we only do unsolved cases and missing persons because that's what needs the most attention. But I still want to know why on every single case, every single story we share. I'm like, why? Why, guys? Why is this happening? So that's my draw. Again, just like Melissa said, now that we work with families, it's a little bit different. Now it's just, what can I do to help you? What can I do to get your story in front of one other person? And that's what drives us now.
Yeah, very valid, and thank you for that, both of you. Eric, do you want to add from a male perspective?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't want to pretend to know why women do anything.
Well, no, from a male, like usually the wife or the girlfriend are watching it, and then my husband just got home. That, right?
No, I didn't mean it like that. What I meant was like I didn't want to speak for women, but from a male perspective, from my perspective, honestly, it's not even really. I think I kind of fell into it because of what happened with my brother's case. I don't know that I would be that into, and I wouldn't even say I'm into true crime. I don't think that I would even be involved in the realm of true crime if what happened to my brother had happened. So it's a little bit different for me. For me, it's more about how can I help families that are out there? How can I give them access to the things that they need to move forward? And so my mindset shifted from when I first started with true crime to where I am now. And I think we're seeing that too in true crime. Like there's a shift that's happening where the story has now become less about the perpetrator and their history and more about the person and the humanization of the victim and bringing their story to light, because that really is the tragedy. This person is now gone. And I feel like that doesn't need to be sensationalized. It doesn't need to be, grossly overproduced or like, made the details worse or whatever. It just needs to be helpful. And I feel like true crime could be very helpful.
It should be. Absolutely. It should be. It should help people, educate them. It should help them understand, like Melissa, what you were saying. What did that person, I don't want to victim blame, but what did that person do? You know what I'm saying? I don't want to go there, but you know what I'm getting at. What can I do differently? Let me put it that way. What can I do differently? Do I carry a weapon? Do I carry, what can I do differently? And Eric, to your point, I've had this thought in conversation with Aaron a lot, like Ted Bundy. Name one victim of Ted Bundy's. Son of Sam. Name one victim of Son of Sam. We can't, and that really irritates me. Now the individuals I can name because we're really covering them and we do like deep dives on them, with our research and our descriptions. But on our thumbnails, we always try to put the victim or the survivor in the thumbnail, because you're right. It's not about the perpetrator. It's really about the victim and getting justice for them, So, to go back to just I'm just fascinated with the human mind, and then both Whitney and Melissa, to your points, it's like, even like, what is the difference? Like what's the difference between the male and the female mind, and why are why is one gender more, I don't know if attracted is the right word, but why do women seem to gravitate more to it? And Melissa and Whitney, you both gave, solid, valid answers. So thank you. Thank you for that. Because I agree. I absolutely agree with that. So let us get to some, this is a good one. What is the end goal? Karen asks, what is the end goal
of AdvocacyCon?
I'm thinking of AdvocacyCon. Let's go with that. What is the end goal of that?
Sure. I don't know. Is it my turn? I'm going to go anyway.
Sure.
The end goal of AdvocacyCon is to create a community and to bring together so many different stakeholders in the justice process so that we can all work together to find resolutions, to find answers, to learn from each other, to get better and to improve, and to be able to provide a safe environment, a safe community for these families where they can, hopefully take control of their cases and take the hope that they get from this conference and let it fuel them for the next 12 to 16 months that they're going to between the next one. That's what I'm hoping for. But Whitney, Melissa, if I missed anything, feel free, correct me or jump in.
I think my personal end goal, or not the end goal because it's going to continue on, a goal is just for these families to walk away with not feeling alone and maybe one piece of information that they can take with them to help continue their fight.
Yeah.
Like Eric had said, it's such a lonely road. And if we can just make them feel like they're not alone and that there is hope, even after 20 years, like Beth Holloway, then I feel like our job is done at the end of the day. That's all I hope for.
Yeah.
I
Whitney?
agree with both of them. Something that some families have already come to us and said is that they've wished for something like this to have already been out there. And why doesn't it already exist? And the fact that we are already changing people's viewpoints, their perspectives, their experiences in the conference or convention world, and it hasn't even happened yet, is incredibly important to me, because we haven't even done anything yet. And we're already having people that have been so incredibly grateful, and it's not even here yet.
Yeah. When you guys hear these stories from people, how do you guys then kind of readjust yourselves so that you don't take on, because I'm somebody who would just take on everything, and I have to shake it off, if you will, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Like, what do you guys do specifically? And Eric, we'll start with you. What do you do specifically to kind of reset yourself and find and not just take on all of this like emotion that has got to be just really heavy?
It's hard. I'm grateful that we're going to have a class on vicarious trauma and compassion fatigue, because I think that is such an important piece to this. As people who work with families, I'm not going to say Melissa, but for me, it does get very difficult. I'm a super empathetic person, and I tend to take on a lot of that pain, and it wears me out. So I have to do the things that I need to do to take care of myself. And that, for me, is like going to therapy and taking care of my physical health, and stepping away when I need to, so that I can, gather my thoughts. And luckily, we all have, crises at different times. So we give each other breaks and fill in for each other whenever things get tough, because it's heavy stuff, and you have to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Melissa, do you want to share what you do?
Sure. I don't really do anything.
Nothing specific. Yeah. Walk the dogs, play with your kids.
So how my brain works is I compartmentalize everything. And when I'm having a tough day, I can just literally open up another box, go do something else, and shut the whole true crime realm or the advocacy piece and kind of go do something else. Probably not the healthiest option, but it definitely does kind of give me a break from thinking about all of the families that we're trying to help and the stories that are heartbreaking. Whitney and I, how we do our podcast now is she actually interviews all the families while I bring in the facts or the news clippings or the court cases, that kind of thing. So my job in this is very, I don't want to say clinical, but it's very factual, while hers is very emotional. And I couldn't imagine having to do that aspect of it, because that would wear me down very quickly. So I love you, Whitney. But
Side note.
Side note. But yeah, you do have to have things like we camp, I read, I'm a TikToker too. So like there's lots of things that I do to take my mind off of all of the heavy stuff that I do day in and day out. So
Whitney, do you have anything specific or?
Yeah. In the words of Taylor Swift, I cry a lot, but I'm very productive. I'm an emotional person already. So taking on the emotions is just who I am. My self-care is a lot of reading. I read a lot of trashy romance novels to get out of the space, if we're being honest, to get out of the headspace. And I am a serial crafter on occasion. When it sparks, I like to be hands-on in that role. And that's my self-care.
Nice. Now we just, Melissa, you mentioned TikTok, and let's go to this question. What role does social media play? Is it helpful or is it a double-edged sword? Therapists should know, ask that question.
It's a double-edged sword. I mean, it is an incredibly useful tool, but it can be emotionally damaging because I think that even especially on YouTube, probably YouTube, Reddit, a lot of platforms, it can get very controversial. People can say things that are not very kind. And I learned kind of early to stay out of those comment sections because it's really none of my business what people think about me or my mom or my brother's case. And so like that, I had to do that for my own sanity. But I think that the power of it outweighs those drawbacks. I think if you are able to build a platform to get people to pay attention to you, the pressure that social media and traditional media can bring can and does solve cases.
Whitney or Melissa? Thoughts?
Agreed. There's many cases where media has hindered as well as helped. I mean, you could take Maura Murray, for example. If you've listened to the podcast Media Pressure, you hear all about the misinformation that was put out about that case and how it did hinder everything going on. But it was literally the first case of social media, of Facebook. So it did a lot of good in some aspects. So I'm like Eric, like I believe social media is amazing and can find people and help families, but it takes a huge toll on the families because people are mean. There are these trolls and just it's just horrible. And we've heard so many stories about what people are saying online about a family. It's devastating. Not only are they dealing with the loss of their loved one, now they are having to, if they're investigating their own case, they have to read all of these, and it's horrific.
Yeah. Whitney?
I agree. It's a double-edged sword. It's a tool because it can spread awareness like wildfire, but at the same time, there's so much negative out there that it can bring you down pretty quick.
Yeah. I use the analogy of like a hammer. A hammer could use to build a house or could be used to kill somebody. So social media is kind of the same way. You know, it can bring people together. We have people from around the world in our chat, and then it can also just tear you down with the comments. It just takes one comment and it just hits me sometimes. I'm just like, oh, but you have to get over that. Somehow you have to get over that. And we all have our coping mechanisms. So to me, social media is just like any other tool. It's all how you use it. You can use it in the positive or you could use it in the negative. So I'm glad you guys are using it in the negative, obviously. So we have some really good questions from Ken Rosenberg. He's kind of our resident lawyer, even though he doesn't want to admit it. So this is kind of a two-part question. If you've had some interactions with local prosecutors in your advocacy, what's the experience been like? Are these offices adequately supporting victims' families? What could they be doing better? All right, so that's kind of the first part. And then his second is more generally, but still within your expertise, how could prosecutors and investigators use social media more effectively in these cases? So what do you think about that? First of all, do you work with local prosecutors in any of your advocacies?
So I think my answer is going to probably be the most lawyer answer that anybody could give, and it's going to be, it depends. Yes, I've had interactions with local prosecutors. The experience depends on the individual office and their willingness to participate. So in my own case, the prosecutors have been a little bit more obstructive than helpful. So my opinion of them is my experience has been detrimental. It's been traumatizing. And then after being traumatized, their advocate tells me, oh, and now we want you to put your handprint into some plaster so we can put it on this tree and show the community that we care.
Mm.
So like my experience with them has been very bad, along
Gotcha.
with the DA's office.
Right.
So some of the offices I think are adequately supporting victims' families. I'm not going to speak for all of them. The ones that I've dealt with have not adequately supported my family. I think they could be doing a lot better. I think that prosecuting cases in your mind and deciding that you're not going to be able to win it, and then that being the reason why you don't bring it to trial, is not great, in my opinion. And I know that prosecutors have that right, but there are times where I feel like the evidence is there and they may not want to prosecute because they think that people may not, the jury may not go in their way. And I just feel like that part of it is the hardest part for me to accept, along with plea deals that really diminish the consequences for murdering somebody.
Yeah. Whitney or Melissa, do you want to tackle that, or do you want to go with the social media aspect of that question?
I have no experience with a prosecutor. We do have the advocates from the prosecutor's office in Indianapolis coming to the event. So in my mind, like, that's great that they actually have that resource at that office. I don't know other locations if they have that or not, but the fact that they have these advocates there helping the families of the murdered, in my mind, is a great addition. Now, if we could just get them at every county or every courthouse, that would be great.
Right. All right. So then, okay. So do you want to? What about prosecutors, investigators using social media more effectively? Is that? Do you see that happening? Because we're seeing that in real time, where lawyers will say, wait, my assistant saw, somebody watching this trial and this camera is zooming in on our table, judge, do something. So we're seeing it in real time. Is that, are you guys seeing that in your experience? Are prosecutors and investigators using social media, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, X, to further their investigations?
From mine and Melissa's side, we don't deal with any trials. Everything that we deal with is before we even get there. We're dealing with the families. They're all unsolved cases or missing persons. So we don't see a lot of what happens in trials or even litigation or even lawyers at that point. We're still trying to find the victim where we're working. That's our realm. So I think there's always room for improvement, right? In anything you're doing, there's always room for improvement. So I think there could be ways to utilize social media to help cases. I don't have the answer. I am not smart enough to have that answer, nor do I have any expertise in the role. So I have no good answer here.
Fair enough. That was a good answer, actually. This is a great question from OnlyFan. Do you have support from psychologists?
So we actually have been looking for some mental health clinicians. We wanted to have a mental health clinician on site to be able to triage in case, the emotions run really high. We've reached out to several and we haven't really been able to lock anybody in. So if you know anybody that would be interested, we'd be happy to provide entrance to the conference if you were willing to help support the families while we were kind of going through that weekend. So long answer to a short question.
Gotcha. Then my next question, excuse me. What does happen if something, like, what happens if somebody has a moment? What do you guys do?
Well, so I'm taking over, so I'll let one of you
You're
answer because I'm
fine. We will have a therapy room. It's a room that's going to be quiet, separate from the rest of the events of the day. It will have calming music. Like I believe Whitney said, we will have therapy dogs on site as well. These dogs are trained to comfort people in traumatic situations. I believe they go out to natural disasters, anything like murdered and missing people, anything like that. So we're trying to think of every possible thing that we can that could bring people comfort in the time of need. And that's why we also had the meditation and the yoga there. But we do have a place that they can go sit, collect themselves, where it's not so many people around and not everything going on. Because we know it's going to be a very, very tough day for the families, or a few days for the families. And that's why we also wanted to end it on Sunday with that fundraiser game night to kind of, debrief from the very heavy weekend and all the talk of, this very depressing topic, to kind of come together and be like, yes, we survived this. We learned a lot. And now let's take what we've learned and move on.
Right. Yeah. You want to empower people for sure at the very end of it. The energy, will be just unbelievable because you have a group of people that are experiencing pretty much the same thing, and that same thing isn't necessarily joy. It's probably going to be very sad. And so the energy will be just palpable, it's just going to be there. And I think a lot of people, what I'm hoping, it's maybe a pipe dream or whatever, is that people will help people. Right. I think you'll see people, if somebody's having a moment and like breaking down on whatever level, I think you'll see like a group hug, a spontaneous group hug, So I kind of envision that. Do you guys, am I off track, on track? What do you guys think?
Eric talked a little bit about this in the last live stream we did, so I'm going to pitch it to him. But we believe that these magic moments will occur naturally. And I'll let him kind of describe it a little bit better because he's much more eloquent than I am with it.
Well, I think this is just something that I'm excited about, things that aren't necessarily on the program that we may not even necessarily find out have happened. But the moment of, a few families sitting together at breakfast during the conference and talking about their cases and pitching ideas to each other, and maybe somebody learns something or takes a huge takeaway that's going to make an impact in their case. There's going to be so many of those little magic moments where, impacts are going to be happening in the lives of these people, and we're not even really going to be privy to it. But that is what I'm the most excited about for AdvocacyCon, is those little opportunities for those connections to happen.
Yeah. That is going to be the special. You're right. The magic moment. That is going to be that aha moment of like, this is why I did it. This is why we're doing it. We actually made an impact and we affected change. That's cool. I like that. This is a great question from Capri Law. In your opinions, has there been an uprising talking about missing Indigenous women?
I love this question so very much. I feel like because the people that we usually surround ourselves with, the podcasters, the YouTubers, they are very interested in always covering missing Indigenous women, especially Whitney and I. We tend to cover lesser known cases, which includes these, because if you don't know, they are reported at a crazy lower rate than any other demographic. I have written a few papers on the missing white woman syndrome, if you haven't heard of it, and how Indigenous people are not reported or not even put in the media like other demographics are. So I personally think that it's getting better, but that also could be because that's who I surround myself with, and I don't. Yes. So that's my thought. However, I really don't know if it is getting better or if I'm just like out here just doing it. So that's why I think it is better.
Right. Whitney, what do you think?
Yeah, I think there's an uptick, but it's not enough. It's not enough, period. We're seeing it because people are talking about it, but it should be hundreds of thousands of cases being talked about. And it's not, especially, places like where Eric is in New Mexico, Montana, Utah, Canada, there's all these places where there's huge Indigenous populations that no one's discussing.
Yeah. Well, Gabby Petito kind of shone the light on that between, young, white, blonde hair, blue eyed. Meanwhile, for every Gabby Petito, there's thousands of other women of color that you don't even hear about. So it's
Yeah.
it's a conversation we need to have for sure.
It definitely is. And I know her family is trying everything they can to get the word out about that, because they know they're like, not everyone gets the platform that Gabby got.
Right.
Why is that a problem? And so they're definitely on the wheelhouse of figuring this out and trying to do better. The more people that we talk to, and that, anyone in the chat talks to, and getting them on board, like everyone needs to be talked to about in the media with the same respect and the same amount of time.
Agreed. And I think just having the conversation, A, is the first place to start, and B, just gets the ball rolling. The more we talk about it, the more trials we cover, the more you guys talk about it on your podcast, it just filters out, and then it becomes normal versus, oh, I've never heard of that, that kind of, at least that's the way I take it, This is a great question from Nan R. Can children help with what you're trying to accomplish? And if so, what age, and what could they do, or how could I help them help? So, and if you look at Nan R's profile, she's got a couple kids in there. So what, I'm assuming this is hitting close to home for Nan. What do you guys think? Like, what age should kids get involved? What do you guys think? Eric? Or who wants to go first?
Well, I think that we are talking about a lot of sensitive topics. So I don't know that I want to put an age limit on it. I think I would defer to the parents to know their children and their maturity and their ability to comprehend what is going on here. And so I would rely on the parents to make that decision. I know that Melissa's sons are going to be helping us by volunteering at the conference. They're in their teens. They're a little bit older, so they're able to kind of understand what's going on. But I don't want to be the one that says, 11's the right age, because it may not be. I think every kid's different. So we would love any volunteer help that we could get. What could they do? We've got bag stuffing to do. We've got greeting. We've got direction finding. We've got a lot of things that we need help with. So absolutely would welcome any volunteers that want to come help us.
Yeah, and I think it definitely depends on the child. Do they have this compassion, this forward heart that wants to be involved in this kind of stuff? I've been in true crime podcasting for what now, 4 or 5 years. So my kids are 14 and 18. They very much know what's going on. They've met families before. They've been to vigils. They know how to interact, that this is not like a vacation. This is where you are going to be helping families that are going through the hardest thing anyone on this earth has ever gone through. And so I just keep that in mind if you think your kid wants to volunteer. But yeah, we're always looking for volunteers. We have some amazing volunteers already, and I'm super excited for them to come out and help us.
There are a lot of sensitive issues that kids, and parents experience growing up. So yeah, it's just like, let Eric and Melissa, your point, you know your child, Whitney, you know your children, when the right time is to talk to them about those things. So I appreciate your responses for sure, because we're all different. Let's see. So Sinbad, Sinbad, going back to the Native Indigenous girls, people who are, definitely needs to be brought into the light. I agree, and we'll do whatever we can do. But see, then here's the thing, like, by me saying we'll do whatever we can do, I feel like my hands are tied in a certain aspect, because we stream whatever's available to us. So we're only going with, and we try to go off the beaten path too. We don't want to do, the high profile cases, although we are going to do some of them, but we also try, because everybody else is doing those, we try to do some of the lesser known ones. And that's usually sometimes where we get our biggest numbers. But we're also, like I said, our hands are tied, because we have to go off what is being streamed. So the larger, the court TVs, the law and crimes, we kind of have to go off of what they're streaming. So we always try to go into the local channels to see if, somebody from Austin or South Carolina, somewhere New Mexico is streaming. And then on top of that, they don't always stream the entire trial. So that's a challenge. And then on top of that, not every state streams. So we'll find there might be something in New York that I really want to cover, but New York generally doesn't stream. So what can we do as content creators, streamers? What can we do to follow some of these cases that need to be talked about? Do you guys have any suggestions? Like, what can we do?
Yeah, there's lots of groups out there. There's lots of TikTok pages, Facebook pages, Instagram pages that focus specifically on bringing out information about missing and murdered Indigenous people. Share those, even just as a viewer or a listener, share those posts because they get undershared compared to other posts. If you are able to, if you're a creator and you're able to cover a story, I can put you in contact with several families. Whitney and Melissa can probably put you in contact with several families that are looking for coverage. There are people out there that are actively seeking help. And so all you have to do is be available for it if you're a creator, and you can definitely be there to help these families. But every share goes so much further than people imagine. It seems like such an insignificant thing, but a share, an interaction, a comment, any of those things really help bring up those posts in the algorithm and serve them up to people who maybe wouldn't have seen it normally. So all of that goes such a long way.
That's a great point, because what I do during the day is, stream trials but what I do now on this side broadcast and what we do with Jules Investigates, that then can now be this platform. So I'm going to reach out to Eric. I'm going to reach out to those groups and bring on and start to do just those, because I do feel, we have to get the word out. We just have to start talking about this more and more. So thank you for that.
I think Sarah Turney is the one that always said, vote with your listens. If you take the time to seek out those that are lesser known, they will become more well known. So you just have to do the legwork. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, Aaron, go ahead. You said you wanted to pull up a question. Okay, therapist, what are some of the biggest misconceptions about your cause and how do you address them?
Yeah, I think some of my favorite ones are families are too emotional to advocate for their own cases. I don't think being emotional has anything to do with your ability to advocate. I'm super emotional. Whitney's super emotional. We still get the job done. We just do it while we're crying.
Yep.
Right.
You just work through the tears. But I think that's that's one of the misconceptions that kind of drives me crazy. Another thing is that people are like, oh yeah, this is just going to derail the case because the family's involved. It's just going to make it worse. And sometimes the families are the only ones that are doing anything with the case. And I think that families of the missing and murdered, and even the victims themselves, often get hit with you have to be perfect for me to care about your case. And I just think that's wrong.
I've experienced that with people. I'm sorry, Melissa, real quick. I've experienced that with people saying, oh, you're too sensitive. No, I don't think you're sensitive enough. So I come back with them when they say, oh, you're too sensitive. I say, well, you're not sensitive enough. So why am I too something, but you're not? So anyway, go ahead, Melissa.
Another misconception is that you have to have this great skill set or be in law enforcement to really make a difference. And believe me, when I tell you, Whitney and I had no such skill sets when we started into this journey of advocating for victims. We just wanted to do something. And so we took our cues from the families, and every family that we work with, we ask them, what do you guys need? I mean, there's foot searches. However, don't do that without law enforcement's consent and that, but we've done that. Sometimes it's just getting the word out, doing a honk and wave. Sometimes it's just sharing social media. Everyone can do something. And I know so many people want to get involved. They just don't know how. That's kind of how we were back in the day. And now we're just like, what do you need help with? We want to be there for you. So you don't have to, be a cop or be a detective to really help out these families. You can just be moms like Whitney and I were.
Also, sometimes the families don't know what they need, and that's okay too. Just listen. That's all you have to do, is just listen to them, because that's all they're asking for most of the time.
Yep. Just be a set of ears. Just be a set of ears. I want to pull this one up, Trial Junkies United, because we follow each other on Blue Sky. Trial Junkies United posts Native and Indigenous crimes all the time. It's a huge thing that needs help. So Trial Junkies United, I acknowledge that. I see that. Whenever I do see that, I try to like your post, and not try. I do like your post. So thank you for doing what you're doing. Let's see. There's some really great questions in here. Therapist, coming in with another great question. How do you see advocacy evolving in the next decade?
Well, I'm just jumping in.
Yeah, we're kind of going in the circle. So
Yeah.
go for it.
I think how I hope it evolves is probably how I'm going to take this question. And I hope that it evolves to create a supportive environment for the people that are out here doing the work. I want to see more people involved. I want to see progress. I want to see people starting to see action in their cases and moving things forward. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel with regards to advocacy, but I also don't think that there is a cookie cutter approach to it. And so that makes it very dynamic and very nuanced and difficult to predict like what's going to happen. I think that AI is probably going to play a role in the future of advocacy. I think we're going to see more and more of that coming into the realm, and I'm anxious and curious and excited and nervous about what that's going to mean, because I think the possibility could be good. And as science and technology develops, I think we're going to see some big advances in that realm as well. But I'm just guessing. I don't know what the future is going to hold. It could be completely different than what I think.
Right. Whitney, Melissa, what do you guys think? Do you have any visions of where you want it to be, or where do you think it'll be?
Well, I just hope, because we've been in the true crime space for so long, I really hope that more true crime content creators take the approach of advocacy and not just talking about it, but like action. Whitney and I have coined the phrase forever action-oriented advocacy. It's more than talking about it. It's putting your action towards it. So that's what my hope for the future is. And I think once more content creators see that there are other creators out there doing this work and helping the families, that more will come along. It's almost like a follow the leader. Nobody wanted to start it or didn't think they could start it. And now like it's tumbling. People are seeing that you can't sensationalize these cases anymore. You need to humanize these victims. They are the true heart of the story, and we need to make sure they're at the forefront. So I think it's happening, but I'm also an optimistic, so that could also be detrimental. So
Wendy, you look like you have a furry companion there.
One of them is trying to get in the camera here. She's a mess. I agree with everything that they said. Ethical true crime is the hot topic word, I think, that gets thrown around a lot. It's the same thing. Just listen to people who care about the victims and not the perpetrators, and do one more thing for a victim a day, and you're an advocate. That's all it takes. Nothing special.
Winnie, I want to stay with you on this one. We'll go opposite direction on this one. What are your thoughts on social media not wanting podcasters to use real words for real things that happen? For instance, sometimes it seems like it's making someone feel ashamed for being a victim. We experience that all the time. Like, you're not supposed to say murder. You're supposed to say M. You're not supposed to say SA. You're not. So YouTube comes down on us for that. But there are other creators that just let it fly and they could care less. So what are your thoughts on that, Whitney?
We take language into consideration when we're writing our script. And we've actually done several presentations about language and what words to use, and many things like prostitution versus sex worker. Those types of outdated phrases are something that we're very, very cautious of. Now, we are human, so we have made mistakes. We do own up when we make mistakes, but that's what we try to be cautious with. Thankfully, we're not on YouTube very much, so we don't deal with that as much on that side of things, because our podcast is our podcast, and we can say what we want with the freedom of speech. But I think that you just have to be careful, like just have care, be trauma informed, victim-centered language. You don't have to talk about the super gory, greasy details to get the description of the crime scene across. Just care. It's that simple for me.
Right. Melissa, being on TikTok, do you run into those same limitations or no?
Well, I should tell you, I watch TikTok. I
Oh.
don't like to be on TikTok.
Fair enough.
Let me preface that. But I do see content creators always minimizing their words or not saying certain things because it could be taken down or blocked. And it is a concern on those social media platforms. But I feel like most people have, especially if you have a following and you've been talking about true crime on these social medias, you know the words that you can't say. And you kind of just move along with that. It's their program, it's their algorithm. And if you want to get out there on the algorithm, you have to play by their rules, which sucks, but that's the way it is. But like Whitney said, as far as language, words matter. And when we are talking about victims, we're not going to put words out there that's going to create those trolls and make them like a magnet for like, oh, well, if they didn't eat lettuce on Thursdays, they would have been fine. This whole victim blaming is not going to happen with us. So we're not going to give that type of information. If it's not pertinent to the case, we're not going to talk about it. This goes for words like drug addict, homeless, that kind of thing. We will say things in a more appropriate manner so that it's sensitive to the families that are listening about their loved one. I mean, can you imagine if someone said that about your child on out there for everyone? We want to make everyone feel like they mattered because they do matter. And we're not going to put a few mistakes out there just because that is sensationalized.
Yeah. Eric, how do you feel? You have a podcast, obviously. Do you just let it fly, or are you aware of certain words, or how do you feel?
I have a lot of thoughts about this. So I think it's part of a larger issue in my mind. I don't necessarily agree with restricting words like murder. I understand why they do, and I just said it. I'm so sorry. You can bleep it out. We are live. That's it. Close it. We're canceled. But
all good.
But when you diminish, right, the tragedy of it by having to limit the language, but to Melissa's point, you do have to play by the rules to get the attention, and so it's frustrating. It's hard for somebody who's out there just trying. Like, for the longest time, I felt like my mom and I were just screaming into the void and nobody was listening because things just don't get picked up. You have a missing person, you see like 2 or 3 shares on the post, and it's just so frustrating. Like, I feel like the algorithm should prioritize missing persons cases. If this is a hashtag missing person, blast it in the local area. Like, why are we burying it? Because people don't want to see that because it bums them out. Sorry.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Why cover it up? Why hide it up? It's happening. It is happening. Let's not sugarcoat it. It is happening, and it will continue to happen if we don't shine lights on it. Do you guys deal with any like legislation or legislators? Do you deal with any local Congress people, mayors? Anything? Well, I guess here, key policy changes you're fighting for. Do you guys get into that realm or no?
So I work with lots of families that do get into that realm. I haven't quite gotten there yet with my own case. I don't think that. I think it's something that's super important. I think it's, we're going to have John Palmer at AdvocacyCon talking about how he was able to change laws in Texas and how he was able to get the district attorney voted out of office. Like, those are the kinds of things that we're going to be talking about at AdvocacyCon. So we do work with families that do that type of work, but myself personally, I haven't gotten there yet. I don't have the time right now, but at some point I might, but not today.
Sure. Melissa or Whitney, have you guys do work on that level or?
No, but we do plan on inviting the mayor of Indianapolis to our event. So you never know who will show up.
And we've worked with a few other families that have worked their way into legislations. We've got a couple of families coming that do have laws out there they're trying to pass. It's not something that I'm well versed in. And again, the families we work with aren't to that point yet. They're still just trying to fight for they're at step one still of a million with the people that we work with. And it's such a hard road and confusing, and it's different in every state. And we do cases in all of the states of the United States. So trying to give someone guidance on their local law enforcement and to get laws passed in their area, it would be too much information for us to even consume ourselves to then turn around to help families with. So unfortunately, we just don't have a lot of legislative knowledge.
Sure.
But you can always sign a petition from a family from change.org. They put those out there all the time, and they need so much support just to get anyone to even view those. Anyone that's high enough up to make some change. So please, if you see one of those come through, sign the petition. It takes 5 minutes. You don't have to give any money. And it means a lot to the families.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I'm just looking through any other questions here. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, there's a great one. Therapist, can you share a success story where your advocacy made a real impact? Melissa, let's start with you.
Oh, lovely. I'm just kidding.
Okay, no, Eric, we'll start with you. No.
It's okay. I mean, Whitney sort of already mentioned it. I mean, it depends on what the impact you mean. A lot of these families are just so thankful that they had a podcast listen to them and put their words out there. And so that is an impact to them, even though it seems so minor. But I mean, like Whitney had said, I mean, I guess our biggest one was finding a missing person for a family. And we've been very close with the family since we've found him and started going on searches. So that family now will have a place to go to visit, to grieve, because we went out in literally 30-degree weather. Well, I also thought I had COVID, to go out and search. So like that's one example, but how many families have we worked with, Whitney? 50 more
than that.
So many. And resolution doesn't mean the same thing for everyone. They really want to be heard. They want to know that their loved one's name is out there, and that no one is forgetting about them. So that is a success in their mind, even though I feel like we're not doing enough. So I also I have another example. Whitney and I went to Arkansas, tiny town, where this woman named Julia Golden was murdered horrifically. Her 3-year-old daughter found her. We had went to the library in this small town, looked through all the archived newspapers, and found so much information that the daughter 30 years later never knew. And she was so happy to have this information, to have these extra pictures, that even though the case is not solved, she has no idea who killed her mother. That was enough for her to be a success story. So it kind of just depends. I feel like we have probably tons more, but those are what's off the top of my head.
Whitney, anything to add? Yeah.
Those same two. We have little impacts every single day. Every case we share, every flyer we share, that's a real impact in my mind. It's doing something. My motto in life is do more. And I mean, literally I have it tattooed on my arm, is to do more. And that's all I do, is do more. And that's an impact for someone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Eric?
Well, so I mean, Jacob's case, my advocacy has had an impact in, and we were able to get it taken out of the district attorney's office and given to the attorney general through the advocacy work, through a call and email, and basically harass the DA campaign that happened over COVID. And that was the most progress we had ever made in Jacob's case in almost 40 years. So it does have an impact. It can have an impact. I think sometimes you have to take the pressure of the eyes of the public in order to get some elected officials to try to do what they need to do to get some of these cases moving. And so, it can be super, super impactful.
Mhm. So I'm going to ask a question. I think I know the answer. Have you worked with a case that has gone to trial, or you have not? Have you guys ever worked with a case that has gone to trial? So, Eric, you want to go first, Eric?
Yeah, I've worked with several cases that have gone to trial.
Okay.
You know, there's a case of Elias Otero. He was gunned down as he was trying to protect his younger brother, who was carjacked and
Mhm.
in danger. And his mom came on the show on True Consequences, and
Mhm.
I think a couple years ago, you know, they had trials for all the people that were involved. Another one was Ryan Savager Jr. That case went to trial. The case of Victoria Martins, of course, went to trial. So there's so many cases that I've covered that have gone to trial.
Okay.
We
Whitney?
have just recently covered a case, the story of Emma Compton. Her husband has just been her husband has just been arrested in her murder. Has not gone to trial yet, but that's one of the biggest, I guess, successes that we have had in as far as for a family, was
Mhm.
helping support her through that. We're waiting for trial at this point, but we've never had one actually go to trial that we have covered.
Gotcha. Would you guys go to, or Eric, since you said you have had, did you go to the trials as well? And then Whitney and Melissa, when one does go to trial, would you go to the trial?
I didn't go to the trials for those. I did watch a couple of them on Zoom.
Okay.
But I have a day job on top of everything else that I'm doing. So
Mhm.
it's not that easy for me to get out to trials just because of the
Sure.
time commitment that it requires.
Sure. And then Whitney and Melissa, is that something you would want to do?
So I also have a day job, but I would wholeheartedly take PTO to go to some of these trials. And I was actually, I live in the Tampa Bay area, and we did have a serial killer here a couple of years ago, and I fully planned on going to his trial because
Mhm.
it was unlike any other serial killer, like not your normal, I'm sorry to say, white male serial killer.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go to see about it.
Mhm.
He ended up taking a plea deal. So no, if I was on a jury, oh man, that's like Disneyland to me. I would love it.
Right.
Love it.
Whitney, would you attend a trial?
Absolutely. I recently became a certified victim advocate, a credentialed victim advocate. So I would be there every step of the way that the family would allow me to be,
Mhm.
just to be their support.
Fantastic. We went to Sarah Boone's trial, and that was interesting. We'll talk about that. Eric, do you want to talk about Jacob? Sinbad was asking, is that something you want to, or no? Oh, you're muted.
I can. It's
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like something I could do, and I don't know how much
I'm-
longer we have on this call tonight, but
Yeah.
it's not something I could do in like 10 minutes probably to do it justice, but I
Right.
can kind of give you the Cliff's notes. So my mom's boyfriend at the time, somebody she had known her entire life, somebody she grew up with. My parents had just separated. He was my dad's best friend. He wasn't a stranger. He was a nice guy. Everybody believed that he was a nice guy. A lot of people still believe that he's a nice guy. He's
Mhm.
not. Uh, he swept in after my parents separated. He knew my mom and dad were having troubles because he was my dad's best friend, and suddenly was just like showering us with affection and attention and gifts and all kinds of stuff. And as my mom and his relationship started to develop, Jacob started to have injuries on his body that were not explainable, and I was initially blamed for it. I was a 5-year-old when all of this was happening, and so my mom sent me to California to live with my dad. And within 3 weeks, Jacob was dead from basically being beaten in the head, and he was only 9 months old. And his killer's story changed, I think, 5 times, maybe 4 times. He failed 2 lie detector tests, and he confessed twice,
Mhm.
and he's still free to this day. He abused me, emotionally, sexually. He abused my mom physically, and he's an extremely violent person that should not have been allowed to be free for the last 40 years. But because he was friends with the police and because his confession tape disappeared, there's really, we're reinvestigating the case right now. We're going to try to find out, if we can get any evidence, because our main concern is making sure that he's no longer able to hurt anybody else.
Sure. Well, thank you for that. Appreciate that. We would, what is your podcast? Can we bring that up, Aaron? Do we have that handy or no? Sorry to put you on the spot.
True Consequences. It's there.
Yeah.
They put it there. Yeah. It's called True Consequences.
Okay. Let me put it up. Okay. So guys, chat, please go and check out Eric, and hear more about that. All right. Whitney and Melissa, where can we find you? I'm not ready to let you guys go yet, but where can we find you?
Whitney usually does all of our social, so she will tell you.
Our podcast is called Navigating Advocacy. We're on every social platform that's out there. So wherever you get your podcast, listen, guys, we're on YouTube a little bit. Like, we did really good for some time. I'm behind on the video editing. We'll get there eventually. Just subscribe. We'll be there once I finally get ahead and AdvocacyCon is over. You'll get a whole lot of downloads real fast, because then I'll have some time to catch up.
Gotcha. Awesome.
YouTube is so much more work than podcasts. That's all I have to say. So much more work.
I can't answer to that. All I know is YouTube. Let's see. Do you guys have any questions? Let me just kind of go through. Do we have any questions for our panel here, guys? Chat. Well, Nanar says, sincere condolences, and I love that you were finding a powerful way to move forward and helping. That's a great question. That leads me now to, do you run across people who, you guys are obviously going and, using something traumatic in a positive way. Have you run across people that are using it in a negative way? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's I call them the ambulance chasers of true crime, that go and they're like, oh, a new case that is getting popular. Let me jump on this bandwagon and talk about all this information that hasn't been vetted yet. That stuff happens a lot, and it can cause more harm, because sometimes that early in a case, you don't really have all the facts. And, it just takes one person saying, oh, this person struggles with substance abuse. And then, you've lost half the audience. They're like, okay, well, it doesn't really matter. They probably deserved it. That's the kind of stuff that just drives me nuts. I have I got a soapbox. I'm going to get off.
Yeah. Whitney, do you see people working it? I'm sure you see people working in the positive. How about in the negative? Do you guys run across that?
Oh, always. I think that if you just take one step back and see what people are putting out there, it's pretty easy to spot. And this goes back to the voting with your listens thing. Think about how they're presenting the information. Melissa and I always from the beginning have said we will never be breaking news, but we will be the best news we can share. As far as research information, we do our absolute best to get it right. There's so much of misinformation out there. Media doesn't get it right most of the time. Let's be real. Yeah. So just making sure that we are taking our time to put the best information out there is the best we can do. But you'll find, if you take a step back and just look, you'll see who it is.
Yeah. Melissa, anything to add to that?
Yeah, there's definitely people out there that are making millions of dollars off of people's worst day of their life. Which is sickening. Yeah, that's pretty much, I agree with both of what they said. And it's just talking. I mean, it's just them putting it out there. So I'm like, they could do more with that.
Sure. We kind of touched upon this, but Hey Mona we're covering a trial out in California, Monica Cementilli, and Hey Mona has been there a couple of times. So I just want to pull this up. Does this work affect your emotional well-being? So we touched upon it a little bit, but do you guys want to just touch upon that again?
100%. 100%. I mean, if you have any kind of compassion or empathy, it's gonna be hard. It's hard to see people in so much pain and to not want to try to make that better. And I've had to learn the hard way. I had a really tough mental health experience over the last few months at the end of the year, and I've had to learn to take care of myself, because I can't be of any use to anybody if I'm not mentally well. And so I think that has something that has solidified in my mind, and I've taken it very seriously, and I've kind of turned the corner on that. But yeah, it is hard.
For me, definitely it does. I already experience anxiety, but hearing about, all these children that go missing, and that, I think someone in the comments mentioned Life 360. If that wasn't a thing, my children, my teenage boys would never be able to leave the house. As long as I know where they're at, I'm okay. But just consuming this much grief and this much turmoil definitely takes, especially as a parent, I'm like, anything could happen to me, but to my boys, absolutely not. So luckily we're at a technological stage where that thing could be monitored. Yes, Life 360. Oh, it was Capri Law. Absolutely amazing, because I don't know what I would do without it, honestly.
Yeah. Whitney, to you?
Same to all of the above. It does take a toll on your mental well-being. And, I have to remind myself that sometimes I have to take a step back, because if I'm not in a great mental space, I'm not helping anyone else.
Yeah.
So
okay, Whitney, back to you. Do you feel do you get too close to that edge? Well, I guess you are. You just said you did. Who pulls you back? Do you pull yourself back? Does your husband, do your kids, does Melissa, who pulls you back from that edge?
all of the above. I think they can all tell when I begin to spiral. Melissa, especially, because I'm talking to her all day, every day, because she's my best friend. So she'll be like, okay, you need to take a step back, or, my husband is, he's so supportive in everything that I do. He doesn't understand it by any means. He's super supportive, but he's like, do what you've got to do. But he's very analytical and type A. And so he's like, you've got lots of feelings right now and you need to take a break. So he pulls me back. Thankfully, my kids they know what I do for a living. Mine are 12 and 9. So they're a little too young for me to interject into this world. As far as helping, they know what I do. They know that I help families, but I don't let them know the details. And they know when I've had a rough day, or we've covered a particularly hard case, when I've read too much or listened too much, read too many autopsy reports. They can feel it. So just making sure I turn off and spend time with them is important.
Yeah. Melissa, your support system, I'm assuming you have one. Do you want to talk about that?
I do. Yeah. I my husband's very good at knowing when I'm extra stressed, and he gets annoyed when there's a lot of stressful stuff going on. So he's like, hey, why don't you take a chill pill? Yeah, my kids completely know, and I want them to know the kind of work that I'm in, because one's about to go off to college, and I swear we cover a college age male disappearing every month. So I'm very adamant that, this could happen if you do X, Y, and Z. But yeah, definitely that support system. You have to check out of this type of work. You can't keep it going, or you would not do it. This is definitely our passion. I feel like we get out of it as much as we put in, even if it's simple email, thank you for all you do, from a mother of a murdered child. And that also fills our buckets where we're like, okay, we are doing something right.
Yep.
I mean, that kind of pushes us forward a bit more. But yeah, you have to. There's no way. I live by the beach, so if I'm having a stressful day, I just go out there, go fishing, lay on the beach for a while, and I'm just like, there's so much more good in this world than there is bad, even though we see so much of the bad.
Yeah. Nothing beats a walk on the beach. That's for sure.
No.
Maybe a hike in the mountains. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Before Eric shares his, I want to say that I think what also keeps me going is I have the opportunity to step away and turn this off, but families don't. They live with this every single minute of every single day. There is no turn off or self-care for them to step away. And I think that also, like me taking my step back and remembering that there's people out there that can't do this.
Yeah.
Kind of refuels my fire a little bit more quickly, if you will.
Yeah, Eric, do you want to weigh in on that? You're living that. You can't step away. What do you like? What do you do? What's your support system?
Yeah, I have a good therapist. I've got my husband, I've got my son, I've got my mom, I've got a lot of loved ones that I care about dearly, that care about me dearly. Whitney and Melissa are my emotional support business partners, and we all get through it, and we all kind of help each other through those hard days as well. And I don't think I would be as resilient or as strong if I didn't have the loving support that I've had around me my entire life.
Yeah, fantastic. I play guitar, right? So whenever I have gone through a rough time, am going through a rough time, I just pick up the guitar and just seems like everything just kind of melts away. Do you guys, Whitney, do you have any extracurricular things that you do to kind of just step away, recharge, not think about, what you just, like you said, autopsy photos or whatever?
I going back to my romance novels,
Yeah.
those good old trashed books are my quick go-to. I craft occasionally, but I got to be in the right mindset to do serial craft, because if it like to get in the crafty mode, because you can't just start a craft, you got to be in the right headspace to have a good craft, because if it goes to crap, like if it's not a good job, a good craft, then you got to start all over, and then it becomes a whole situation.
Right. And Eric, I think you said you work out or you did exercise. I thought you.
Well, yeah, I've started, but that's just because I'm trying to stay alive, not because I enjoy exercising.
Gotcha. Although I'll admit, like there was a couple times, like I'd come home from work and I was just so uptight. And I play tennis, so I would just go out and just smack the ball around, and that released it. That felt, that physical release of energy, I thought helped, or I know it helped. Melissa, how about you? Do you go out and dive into the ocean?
No, my husband is always like, Melissa, you need a hobby. True crime, I feel like, was my hobby until I started the podcast in this whole realm.
Right.
So this year I started a garden, but then my husband overtook it and said it was his garden. So now I have no hobbies. I've literally told him that we should start pickleball, though, because there's like pickleball courts everywhere.
It's everywhere. It is everywhere.
But I haven't done it yet. So that's my next tryout of a hobby, because I'm always trying them out. I just don't stick with them.
She's a serial hobbyist.
If you have any ideas, please tell me, because I need something, because apparently my hobbies become my career.
Yes. Yep. Curvial. Wait. Oh, hold on. I want to pull this one up. Curvial pickleball must be in Florida. Yep. Tampa.
I am in Florida. It is crazy how much people go do pickleball here. It's wild.
Yep. Curvial is a little south of you and we're a little north of you, but yep, it's everywhere. Yeah, it is everywhere.
I used to live in the panhandle of Florida too. So I'm down here now, though.
Yeah. Pickleball. Is it sweeping the nation, Eric and Whitney, or is it just sweeping Florida?
It is in Austin for sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Austin's like Tampa, though, or like Florida. Right. I feel like.
Yeah.
Right.
It's almost like the new CrossFit. Like, people that do it don't stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can understand it. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's their whole identity.
Right. So I love tennis. I've played tennis, since a teenager, and I can understand the appeal of pickleball, but I will never do it because I don't want to be a stereotype. I don't want to go into that demographic because I'm of that age, and I don't want to go even further into that. So I'm refusing it with a passion. Let's see. Oh, Naples is hold on. Kerrville. Naples is the pickleball capital of the world still. Wow. All right. The things you learn here on Trial TV Live. Oh, it's big in Ohio. All right. I was born and raised in Cleveland, so it's big in Ohio. Interesting. All right. Pickleball's in Minnesota. All right. Enough of pickleball. Let's get on to something else. All right. Well, let's see. We've had you guys almost 2 hours. Do you want to start to wrap it up? What do you guys think? All right. What haven't you told us, Whitney? Let's start with you. What haven't you told us that you want us? You want to leave, or we could start with Melissa. What do you want time to think about?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Tell us something that you haven't told us yet that you want to tell us.
Just, thank you for having us on first. Please go follow and support the conference. Share it with anyone you may know. We want this to be a success. We want to get in front of as many families as possible. There are more families affected by missing and unsolved murder cases than you may realize. Some people just don't talk about it and could be helped through this resource. So please just talk about us. That's all we care about right now.
Fantastic. Melissa, to you, anything you want to tell us that we haven't heard from yet?
Yeah, I'll just mention a couple of the other amazing speakers that we will have. I don't know if you guys know Madison McGee from Ice Cold Case, where she helps try to solve her dad's murder. If you haven't listened to that podcast, it's so good. I personally like long formed podcasts, so that's an amazing one. She will be there speaking on that. Laura Norton, who is an author as well as a podcast host of The Fall Line. She'll be there talking about genetic genealogy on our schedule for just the three of us. We have genetic genealogy stuff and things because we don't know about that realm, but it's advancing like every day. Every day someone is getting identified because of everything that's going on in genetic genealogy. It does fascinate me, even if I don't know how it works.
Fantastic.
There's so much going to be, like, such a diverse set of speakers that's going to be at AdvocacyCon. Please join us and learn about all of this.
Fantastic. Eric, anything? Well, I know you, I won't say anything. Please leave us with something that you want to share with us that we haven't heard yet.
Well, I just want to say thank you for having us on, and thank you to everybody in the comments for being so engaged and asking some amazing questions. Don't keep us a secret. I don't really have anything that you haven't heard. I've basically told you everything. But if you want to come to AdvocacyCon, we would love to have you. We welcome everybody that wants to be involved in this, and so happy to come on here tonight and talk to you all, and hopefully I'll get to see some of you in person in Indianapolis.
Fantastic. Well, I have an open invitation to all three of you to come back afterwards to share your stories about what you experienced. So please consider that. And I have, I guess, your email, the info at, so I will reach out to you guys at that point. When would be a good time? Like a week after, the next day, seconds after?
2 weeks after.
2 weeks after.
I said I am not doing anything for that first week.
Going offline for 2 weeks. I got you.
Yes.
All right.
But
Fair enough.
Thank you so much for having us and inviting us back. We appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. All right. Well, I will let you guys go. Thank you all for joining us. And I will definitely be talking about AdvocacyCon going forward for the next couple weeks before it actually hits, which is the 28th through the 30th. And then afterwards, I will reach out to you guys, and I would love to have you guys back on. So thank you for being with us. And I look forward to having you on in 3 weeks. No, maybe a month. 2 weeks after.
Maybe a month.
All right, mid-April,
Yes.
April 15th-ish. All right.
Perfect.
Thank
All right,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. All right. So again, thank you to Eric and Melissa and Whitney. You guys, thank you. That was everything and more what I was expecting, what I was hoping to learn about. I wish you all the best, much success in Advocacy Con, which is a conference. I'm coming away with so much, I'm coming away from so much from now I have, I have this platform, right? And we do our live trials, which is I think important, but I think also what is now becoming more important to me is this platform right here that you guys are watching. So I want to start to expand upon that and start to cover, these situations, these incidences, these events, these traumatic situations that people are going through that we just don't hear about. So this is like a whole new realm for me. I am energized. I hope, chat, I hope you guys are energized. Please go to here. Let me, we'll pull up, no, let's see. Can't find, well, it's AdvocacyCon.com. Please go there. Please just share it out on your socials. Talk to your friends and neighbors, whoever you can talk to about it. Thank you, Aaron, for pulling that up. It's coming up fast, you guys. And again, do what you can with this specifically, but then expand that out to just listen to somebody who's having a rough day. If you know somebody who has gone through either as a victim or a survivor, just a set of ears is probably going to go, miles, if you will. So. All right. So on that note, thank you, Aaron, for doing everything that you do on the back end. You are spectacular. Thank you to our mods, as always. Thank you to Pammy, who brought us this. Thank you to Eric, Whitney, and Melissa for being on our show. I am so looking forward to hearing from you 2 weeks into April to hear what a smashing success this turned out to be, because I know it will be. So. With that, I will say goodbye to you all, and we'll see you tomorrow for our live stream, and we'll talk more about it then. So have a good night, guys. Bye.